as we're cool with it. We're just kind of letting the board know, like, we're doing this process.
I think it doesn't help to have them look at it. They don't have to approve it, but.
Right, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll start with what Allison recommended, and we can maybe just point out if anything seems like, that doesn't really work for this. This is kind of boilerplate, what she gave me. I looked through it earlier and was like, it's pretty standard. So Allison said that, to get started, when we do the evaluation, have the job description in front of us. So it's obviously what we hired him under, right? A summary of the board's key goals and objectives for the past year, which is the goals we put together. So already off to a good
What are we
start.
looking at now?
This is this email. It is formatted a little funny.
Yes?
Email, yeah. So it's just,
Okay.
We don't have a copy of the job description.
that's for the evaluation. She's just saying what we should have when we come in February to do the evaluation. These are all the things we should have with us.
Today, you should only have the email from Allison, the standard performance review, and then the goal sheet.
So this is what she's saying, like February evaluation meeting, this is what we should have in hand for everybody. So job description, right, fair, summary of the goals and objectives, that's what we have. It says past year, but we're really looking at the short-term goals for the last 6 months. Records of board meeting attendance, committee participation, and contributions to the discussions held at the meetings. I don't really know how to provide that other than we know you're coming to these and you can speak to it in your goals when you're self-evaluating, I guess. I don't know how we would bring those records other than we know you're here.
Yeah, and
I don't think you've missed a board meeting since you
I've
started.
not missed a board meeting. I've only missed a couple of committee meetings.
Okay.
And then contributions would be, in the minutes or in the director's report.
Yeah,
All right, so we should be very mindful of making sure that the minutes that Norina does reflects your participation
Mhm.
and well documented. So when we go through this
You
evaluation,
mean
It's
Mike, you mean Mike. It's not Norina anymore.
oh, right.
Or I'll check, yeah. He's the current.
So,
No, you're okay. It took me a second. I was like, oh, I was like, I don't think she would do that for her committee. Yeah,
no, it's not her anymore. And she was very thankful that it wasn't.
I know. She was very thankful, but yeah, so we'll figure out how we
Yeah.
manifest that. I don't find that as relevant as like how you're making progress on your goals, but any key contributions made during the past year, e.g. participation in key committees, providing value, but I feel like that's more of the same.
Mhm.
From 3, any expertise on critical issues, representing the organization in a public forum platform. So I think you have goals for that, which is like
Yep.
making those connections in community groups. So when you're self-evaluating, I guess go by,
Last time, yeah.
yeah. You could speak to it there, because I don't know how we would know that necessarily, or it's in your report, right?
It'll be in your
report.
report.
Yeah, if I meet with somebody or if
So
I'm,
you should document that, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I wish I could say we're all gonna reread all the director's reports for the last 6 months, but
As they say, paper it.
I'm a big supporter and people know the best themselves what they've done. So unless we find something glaringly weird in your self-evaluation on like, you're like, I rebuilt the whole library from the ground up, bulldozed and built it. And I could be like,
I would up on the roof and fix the hole in the skylight myself.
Nice.
You know?
go get her. Okay, so step 5, assessing the director's ability to contribute to the organization's long-term strategic planning and decision-making process. Well, our LRP is in flux at the moment. So again, I think we're gonna just kind of see how much you've moved the needle on your long-term goals for that, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That'd be fair to
Me
me.
too.
And It's also, as we develop the strategic plan, I think we're gonna want a long-range plan to have benchmarks that we've moved through. And I can add my contributions if they're different from organizations.
Yeah,
to-
yeah, yeah.
to that report.
That's fair.
Mhm.
You want us to wait, Marcia? Evaluate the director's understanding of financial statements and the ability to review key financial metrics.
That was the one I had the most question about because there are some of these items that I would actually delegate to the fiscal officer.
Well, right, we have a fiscal officer, but
Yeah,
evaluate the director's understanding of financial statements and the ability to review key financial metrics. I get that last part a little bit because you would expect the director to be clued into like if there's any major financial points, but I guess we can just discuss it and be like, sounds like he knows what he's doing, right?
right.
Evaluate the director's ability to motivate their team. So I think that is also gonna be largely based on your assessments of the employees themselves and you letting us know kind of like what positive affects have been sort of seen in the staff since you started, right? Okay, the director will complete the self-assessment questionnaire, which will reflect their individual performance and contribution during the past year. That's,
I don't understand this. Evaluate the director's ability to motivate their team.
Mhm.
Who's their team?
They're all my team, all of the
I mean,
employees.
technically it's at the
The admin team is my team,
but-
yeah.
Well, and the department heads.
yeah, so,
And kind of the way I've envisioned it so far is as we're moving through some of the goals I have like built around customer service, built around, like, we have like key pillars of things we do, collection development, programming, customer service, outreach. That's kind of the prism that I'm looking at, like, can I get the team behind the strategies we have? But like Alicia was saying, I think a lot of it would be self-assessment.
yeah, especially because we don't have a benchmark. So we didn't have anything last year. The format's changing completely. And I think this is gonna become the benchmark for the next review in 6 months. Because I think what I'd like to start keeping track of, and I don't know the best way to do it, I'd probably ask Allison to do that. Since she can keep those records here and confidential, is like, you let us know, how many of the staff are maybe like not performing as well as you'd like, and then hopefully that number decreases as we like adequately motivate and or cull people that aren't good fits, kind of a thing. So if you, I don't know if you call it a PIP here, right? Like a-
We do, yeah.
Okay, so if you say there's 5 people on a PIP, and then the next time around there's 3, like we're obviously incrementally motivating and or improving like the culture, like
The pronoun differences, that's where I'm thrown.
Oh,
where? Pronoun?
Evaluate the director's ability to motivate their team. It
Yeah.
could be his team, but we're
Right.
using pronouns differently now.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I just thought the next one to reflect their individual performance.
Yeah, it's just neutral.
Sorry.
no,
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 no.
no worries.
She's HR, so I get it.
No, it's
Yeah.
okay.
We're gonna have to keep it neutral.
I'm glad she's doing it.
No, yeah, so, okay. So I have no problem with this. It is kind of, like I said, boilerplate. Some of these things are a little tricky without you just self-reporting on them, because I don't know how we would be able to gauge this independently of your evaluation. Unless we go to like, and it seems like a lot of like logistics is we go to the chair of every committee and be like, hey, Pete's been showing up. Is he contributing? How? And have I mean, it's not the worst idea, but every like committee chair just be like, here's my like mini blurb on Pete's participation, and for financial, I guess that would cover your understanding of what's happening financially.
Right,
Maybe, yeah,
that would make sense to me.
okay, because,
Actually, I think that's a good idea, because pretty much every board member is represented either by a committee chairmanship or committee participation. So it gives like a full 360 view of the entire board's view of my performance.
okay. I just didn't know if that was overkill. I didn't want you to feel micromanaged, but.
Not at all.
I have good ideas sometimes, not often, but
It's
sometimes.
like you manage projects for a
It's
living.
like I manage projects for a living and or have to get stakeholder feedback on. Please keep in mind the following points. All information gathered is confidentially aggregate. Feedback must be provided in a constructive and supportive manner with the goal of improving individual and collective performance. Use concrete data-driven examples to support your feedback. That's where we might need to get that from you. And then have that as a benchmark. And then that gets baked into your goals. So this all becomes like cyclical eventually. It's just, we're kind of starting from scratch. Utilize the evaluation as an opportunity to discuss career development and growth potential.
There's not a whole lot for me to
I
go.
don't know where you're gonna go.
Yeah, there's no
from here.
director
I
position
was gonna
above
say,
me.
what can you be, super direct?
Super
Yeah.
director. Alpha director, Sigma director, I think is the kids,
There
that's
we
the
go.
highest level, Sigma.
There we go.
But you might have personal development goals and that's fine.
Yeah,
So,
and career development can be, things statewide, things nationwide.
exactly,
like,
attending certain things.
Some.
Yeah, be president one day, who knows?
Yeah, or, be working with NYLA,
Mhm.
Upper Hudson, for example, they asked if I wanted to be the chair of the Directors Association.
Mm,
So,
See?
that's You know, within my role here, there's other
There's
things.
some side quests you can do.
Thank you, side quests.
There you go. So yeah, that again, those will eventually show up in your goals, I imagine. Encourage open communication, allowing the individual to share their point of view or any areas of concern. And avoid personal bias and ensure the evaluation is based on performance. All right, fair enough.
So just a question on process.
Yeah.
The board will assess you in February, even though it's, done. That process by the board is confidential.
I believe I'm assessed in a public forum.
See, all information gathered during the evaluation process must be treated with the utmost confidence.
See, and I think this is the boilerplate aspect of it because this is the staff's process. Like,
Yeah.
we don't see the staff's individual evaluations, but you can come to us. Obviously, if there's an issue we need to know about, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't be like this person, like we wouldn't get that granular because.
But I'm discussing it here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Did those get posted somewhere?
those do not get posted. I think in the case of Allison's best practice, she's not worked with a public director position before, so she probably doesn't know that my evaluation is public. So I
That's my
think,
prediction.
I think
You
it's.
said it more directly than I did.
Yeah, I think as long as all of you are treating me with the utmost of respect and judging my performance, I have no problem being in a public forum. So yeah, I think that's just Allison doesn't know that.
Okay, and I don't know because I feel like they've been wonky since I started.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what.
We don't know, I don't know because we've never done it.
Mhm.
It's
But normally,
Barbara.
it seems to me that when we're doing the evaluation, shouldn't that be an executive session?
Because it's about a specific
It's a
employee.
personnel issue.
But if the personnel committee is the only one really responsible for conducting it, would you want it in an executive session or would you want it in an executive session committee meeting?
Yeah,
Once the personnel committee meets and, goes over it, then you have to report to the board. Seems that,
Oh, I see what you mean. So they would both basically be executive session. There'd be the executive session committee meeting of the evaluation, then like a dissemination of the outcome to the
So that
board.
the
in
public,
executive session.
so was, in the past, the public was never aware of the evaluation of the director.
was there ever when the personnel committee was reporting out to the board, was it ever like, we have conducted the evaluation and we recommend that we keep the director? Like, was it anything like that? Or, okay, or we evaluate the director and he passed evaluation, nothing?
Well, I think there should be something like that.
Yeah,
Well, I think the problem is there was no HR person for the longest time. There was no past the board just doing the evaluation. I think it went nowhere after that.
Yeah.
Is my interpretation. That's why it probably wasn't very effective because I don't think there was a ton of like goal setting like this.
Mhm.
It was just like, we're doing it because we're supposed to
I don't
do
know
it.
any
And then
requirement.
there was no HR person.
Requires an evaluator, so let's lay the staff aside
Mhm.
and administrators. I don't know of any requirement that requires an evaluation of you be made public.
Mhm.
So if the personnel committee met in executive session, which we can do, and evaluates you, and then, as Barbara suggested, the board meets in executive session and personnel committee reports the evaluation of you to the executive committee. I still think it would be appropriate, assuming you're doing your job and we love you and everything else,
Mhm.
that there be some public comments in the minutes of the board after we get out of executive session to say that the personnel committee conducted the interview and assessment. And we met in executive session, the board. Listened to what the personnel committee had to say. And now that we're on the record, the consensus is that Pete is doing an excellent job, a lousy job. He's done public things. The public, just the synopsis of it, so that the public's aware that the executive director is being judged and has come out with good performance. I think that's an important thing for him.
Mhm.
And important for the public to know that the executive director is doing a good job. We don't have to go and, that's my thought. The executive session personnel, executive session board, and then some comment after the executive portion of the board to say that the board met in executive session and discuss Pete Petruski's evaluation, and we find that he's done a fill in the blank job. If it's crappy, I wouldn't.
What if, I don't anticipate this, but I think the argument against that is that, you know, what if there are certain things that you designated, and should those be made public, or should you work on them internally and hopefully get better at them?
Well, I think we could phrase it. Look, unless the man's a total bust, which he isn't. Fire him. I'm assuming he's doing his job.
Whatever the norm is, but it's, as I said, it just.
I don't think publicizing growth items necessarily like adds a whole lot, because I don't think, you know,
I think that just some assessment that says he's doing a good job and he has set goals for the future.
and then we'll know the details because it's part of this
The
when we.
details don't have to be public. What I'm saying is it would be a nice public pronouncement for the public to know that the person we hire is doing a good job.
No, I think it's fine to
Yeah.
make a statement, just
Yeah.
like we had a, you know,
It's good. for
positive
the-
evaluation of the director and. Yeah.
You know, it could be a general statement that he's been evaluated
Mhm.
and that he has set short-term and long-term goals. He's met the short-term goals, long-term goals are in the making, and he's doing a fine job.
Yeah.
Which
I'm
I
okay with
assume is
that.
going to be the case.
I think it's, yeah, I agree from.
Yeah,
from a-
I'm okay with that.
From a public accountability standpoint, I think it's just good that the public knows that, yes, that everyone is being evaluated and
Yes.
what the board thinks. And yeah, we wouldn't go into detail about like,
You don't need to go into detail.
there's no detail, but it's like, you passed your evaluation or there's things to work on, moving on, you know?
I mean, if you want to run it by the board, it's fine. I just want to know what the process is.
I don't think we have one. That's the problem if we're kind of making it, but
You know,
yeah, I'll bring this all up
Yeah,
when
I'll
we
leave it
go
to
to
you
our
then.
meeting, and if anybody has like a totally different or interesting
Good.
idea approach, we can finalize that, but so my quick impression of this boilerplate review thing, first of all, 8 pages is humongous. Like, I don't love that. I kind of want to scrap these
Mhm.
personally, those 1 to 5.
where does it come from?
This is just the boilerplate one.
That is the standard one that is used for all the staff who are not the director. I think it would be
I mean,
appropriate
the
that,
ones that should have been used, that wouldn't have been used.
yes, yeah, that's the existing one that we have on record as if we were, or if we're evaluating, we use that form. But that said, I think it'd be appropriate if you want to change it for the director, because I'm the only employee of the board and I can have a separate evaluation from the employees.
So here's my thought, because you'll have most of the same, I think, because I looked at this stuff and it mostly seems fine. My problem with this is we don't see you day to day. So I feel like rating you from 1 to 5 on things I don't see you do is gonna be difficult. I feel like we will spin our wheels trying to figure this out collectively.
Because again, the only way we could do this is if we asked all the head, like of the departments, or asked other people, does he do this, does he do that?
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we can generally get to any good or bad things in our like narrative
Mhm.
version, so.
This is supposed to be for all the employees though, right?
Yes, so
For
it,
him.
it's,
He's saying it, he thinks that, I mean, again, we don't have a standard.
Right.
And the last one we did have, when we looked at it, we were like, we just stopped because we're like, we can't evaluate any of these things. We have no idea. And I looked at this and I was like, I feel like that gets achieved later on in this anyway. And this just, I feel like we'll just add more time for no reason. And I don't even do it at my own, like, I'm at a manager level, so when I do my annual reviews, I do the self-assessment first, and then that goes to my manager. They read my self-assessment, and I know, because I do it for my direct reports, I read their self-assessment first, and then I note if there's anything they've missed, or anything I want to point out. Like, because they are asked to give, like, accomplishments they've done, and also areas of, like, growth. So their impression of what they think they need to like work on might be different than mine, and that's where I would note it, and that's where we have the discussion.
So this
That's
is,
basically it.
this is the questionnaire, a self-assessment, and then the supervisor's assessment.
Yeah, so starting from page 3, this is the employee performance review. We would scrap that because that's more like, is there concerns with items scored at 1 or 2? We can skip that. So I would say starting at page 4, that's fine. So that's the employee self-appraisal. So I would assume you would want to have this done going into the February personnel committee meeting. So it's just what were your core responsibilities, your accomplishments, which you have your goal chart. So this will make it very easy because you could just point to those things. Any obstacles for goals that you should obtain in the coming year. So you can pull from your long-term goals that now become the new short-term goals. What additional skills, areas of development would be helpful to you in your position? And I think that's fine, right? So I guess we're the supervisor part of this. Number one becomes redundant because that's just your job description, right? Job description plus goals that we've already determined, so I'm not gonna relist them out. Employees' accomplishments in the past year refer to self-assessment, right?
There's a lot of redundancy in this.
Huh?
Is,
That's what I'm saying. I hate when things get redundant and to my own company, wrote a scathing review of our evaluation process because it's also very redundant. And the questions just get sillier as you go on. So I like to keep it short and concise. Basically, want to know how you're feeling about your job, what you want to brag about, what didn't go so well, how we can support you kind of a thing. And that's it. And then we basically go, yeah, we're in alignment, or like, hey, you might not have noticed you did this really wrong, or we've heard this issue, you know?
Are you also going to use this for employees?
this is what we currently use for
Yeah,
employees.
granted, the people doing those evaluations work with them daily, so they might be able to answer that a lot better, but it also is,
These tend to be really ridiculous to tell you.
these are very long. This is a long assessment,
This is a really long one.
but that's for the HR person to
No,
clean
but
up.
these are ridiculous.
It's very long.
Well, we were doing this in the absence of an HR manager, and now we have somebody who can actually look at it, and recommend something else.
Right, yeah, so, like I said, as soon as she sent this over, I was like,
Yeah,
this is
no,
very
she's working with what we have.
boilerplate, so I think we could truncate this to make it more valuable, so it's like worth everyone's time. So I think we start at, basically our first thing is just like feedback on the self-assessment, right? Director's assessment. I think once you have that done, you can send it to us and we can kind of like read it over,
Yeah.
put our own notes in, and then come ready for discussion at the February meeting. And basically what we want to be able to provide Pete is like, are we in alignment with your self-assessment? I don't know how we would know any obstacles to your progress, because again, that is what you're going to provide to us in your self-assessment. I think these two, the 4 and 5 are the only ones that I find valuable, and it's basically if we have our own idea of what the goal should be. They might align with what you have, or they might be totally different, but that's where we come with you saying like, yeah, we agree or disagree with your self-assessment. Here's our notes on that. Here's the goals we would like to see from the board's perspective. So we might give board input there. Feel like it, but I think we could probably figure that out ourselves. And list for strategies for employee development and improvement. If we want to go that extra mile and find you resources or things like that, sure, I guess that could be relevant. Or we can ask you to do it and say like, hey, bake into your goals, like these things that we've kind of found, and then here's our summary of it. Like, here was what we disagreed with or agreed with. Here's our idea of what the goal should be done, right?
And I think I don't anticipate this in this cycle, but if I wrote into like things I didn't accomplish, or said like, I'm not sure what to do about it, that would be an area where you could say, here's our suggestion. You know?
Right, and I think that's a good thing to do. If you feel like I don't know the priority of these goals that I think I should be doing, like that's where we can maybe go like, hey, actually the board's #1 goal is this, blah, blah, blah.
I think you could frame it as a, this is what I'm thinking. I'd be interested in the board's input. Let's discuss.
So is
We can
everyone,
incorporate all this crap into a narrative, to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah.
This is very juvenile.
Library is closing in 30 minutes.
We're gonna focus on
Our
the narrative.
public
We're not gonna do
will shut down in
so
approximately
it'll start with the
15
narrative.
Please save your work.
yeah, I mean, that's like just 3 pages right there.
Check out that. Thank you.
You always want to be exceeding.
Oh, and I've worked places where they told the managers, don't give anyone more than a 4.
Yep.
So it's like, why do we even have a 5-point scale?
It's Frank been asked to evaluate, they're supposed to do it online and I just call them in and go, get that.
Well, and my goal for evaluations is one, first of all, none of it should be a surprise,
Yep.
right? If we've been open and transparent and communicated well with
People
you,
should know what, you know.
You
on
should
a
already
day-to-day
know-
Basis, if you're happy, what you're happy
Yeah.
with and what you're not happy with.
yeah, so clearly we're all happy with you currently, but if anybody had a problem, you hopefully would have been told
Yeah.
by now, so hopefully none of it should be a surprise. It's really more like goal aligning and just like, it's helpful for people to look back on things they've done and be like, oh, okay, I'm on track with what I want to do, or I'm way off track. Because we've already okayed your goals, basically. The board's already said like, these goals look great and we agree. And we prioritize them in order, right? We like reshuffled them around and we went like, these are the order of importance. And then things just kind of shift over. So your long-term goals, when some of them will shift into your short-term goals, and then in 6 months, we look at those and go, yeah, that would like, cool, you hit all of them, or what was the like roadblock for it? Is it something on our end we can help with? Or just because you didn't hit all your goals, I don't consider that like not meeting, because some things like have unexpected roadblocks that nobody can,
Yeah, well, it may be something that comes up that you report to the board during a meeting that's entirely outside the scope of what you think your goals are.
yeah, or something comes up in the 6
And we'll know about it
months.
because you'll tell
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Just as this, I had a friend who had a very high position in a big trade organization. She had to write her own assessment, so she wrote this whole thing up about goals and blah, blah, blah. It was like 10 pages, very well written.
Mhm.
And it went to her boss, who was the CEO.
Please don't make.
And she got a letter back that was so scathing and said, she showed it to me and she said, I don't understand this. And he said, I don't know what planet you're living on. I'm not kidding. But whatever you wrote has nothing to do with what you do here, what you should be doing here. And, you know, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm not kidding. It was horrifying. She
But
left
like,
that-
she was just like,
She was on planet A and they were on planet B.
wow.
It was awful. It was
But I
truly.
put that on them too. They're not aligning somebody with their expectations. Yeah,
I mean,
they're not gonna.
she was
meet
totally
them.
shocked.
I wouldn't, yeah, that's what I,
And they were
don't
totally
ever
shocked.
want. That's what I don't ever want. Like, I don't ever
Exactly.
want. So I agree, like you start with the job description. If you've gone above and beyond in anything that falls out of that, that's what you want to point out as your accomplishments, right? Or if you've hit your goals, there you go, that's an accomplishment, right? Just because it's a set goal doesn't mean it's nothing, right? And yeah, I think the discussion's more important than like a 1 to 5 scale. So,
This is just nonsense.
so.
It's very juvenile.
So I think, does anybody feel like anything's missing in that format? So basically, the simplified version of it, right? You do your self-evaluation, give it to us with enough time for us to be able to review and take notes prior to whenever we're doing the February meeting. You know, we come in with our notes, see if our goals align, have the discussion, that's it, right?
What we should be doing as a personnel committee is setting our own goals so that we have something to give him.
Exactly, yeah.
So
So that's,
we need to be proactive, not reactive. because
Right.
It's not helpful to you.
so that's why I was saying, I think, our number 4, so if you go to the the supervisor's appraisal, number 4, that's our list of goals, everyone write your own and we'll compare and contrast.
Right.
And then 5 is only relevant if we think there's some sort of like advice or reference or something that we can provide that's helpful there. Otherwise, it's almost irrelevant as well. So in
5 is a silly question.
well, in my case, like, so some people say, I want to grow a developer skill in this software language. And then I'll say, okay, do you want me to go find resources for you or are you going to find it on your own? And sometimes they'll say, hey, if you have anything that's helpful, let me know. So I'll give them links to things, but that's the only time I would find that relevant. So this is like a maybe, like number 5. Otherwise, we really just, from our standpoint, I think we review your self-assessment, take notes, either, hey, totally agree, yep. Or like, did you consider this, right? Our goals, and then that's it, and then it's a discussion, and we basically sign off that we did it, right?
And your next personnel committee meeting is currently listed as being February 6th. how
which is
far?
kind of early.
That's kind of early, but
So I think we could push that
We
out.
could push that, and then how far in advance would you like my self-assessment, whenever your meeting is?
At least a week, at
A
least
week.
a week.
Week, okay, okay.
Yeah, so a week before. In terms of a formal process, I'm trying to think if there's anything we want to like spell out stepwise. I like to keep it simple, so I think I'm maybe overthinking it, but is anybody missing anything they would like to see process-wise in here? Is it fine, simplified version of that?
Yeah, I think, this obviously we talked about ad nauseam. This is good, except for the public part.
Yeah.
This is good, and so we need to look at this.
And that will get updated as we get closer to the actual evaluation.
So in terms of getting feedback from all chairs, I don't know if I want to keep that an open-ended thing or if we want to just ask them 2 questions or so, so they all answer the same thing. Do we more or less want to say like, so what did she say in here? Participation in key committees providing valuable insight and expertise on critical issues. So I would maybe just say like, question, has Pete been I don't know, I'm running out of words.
Where are you looking?
I'm just writing some, like, the 2 questions I want to ask the chairs, because I'm just gonna email them and just say,
Chairs
like,
of the department?
has Pete been a valuable, I don't know,
Participant.
participant in your committee meetings? I'm such a slow writer. I wish I knew shorthand. Teams, okay, especially with a pencil.
Do you think we should include the concept of leader?
Well, I don't know, do you
He's
don't
the director of the library.
Oh,
If, in terms of the committee meetings, I think like, did I represent the library? Did I provide leadership, like in the context of the
That's
meeting?
important.
did, how would I word that?
Participation and leadership.
Provide,
Because if he's setting goals, a lot of it's going to depend upon the people that work for him, right?
And it's in the context of committees, it's like, did I show up? Did I participate? Was I useful? You know?
It's who, what, where, when, and why.
Mhm.
Because if you're at the meeting, you're not doing anything, you know.
I could be sitting here, gazing in space.
and if I can read my writing later. I'm just trying to word it specifically, so
Like,
it's not
the
too.
leadership concept, a more general one.
So this is what I wrote. Did Pete provide an example of leadership in those meetings in alignment with board expectations?
How would they know that?
Because we discussed all the goals.
No, how would the team heads know board expectations?
Oh, so she's talking about for committee.
These are
Committee members.
committee chairs. I'm not going to the board I'm not going to the department heads.
Oh.
No, these are for committee chairs because one of the,
You mean? Oh.
yeah. No, I was
That's
like,
I'm confused,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
Slow in the uptake.
No, I was like, what do you mean, how would they know? They're on the board.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, that's a totally different problem.
Yeah.
The third one, I would just say, like, is there anything more you would expect? Or is there any more, like, I'm trying to think of, because I wouldn't frame it as like, are there any growth items, but, is there any additional support you need from Pete in these meetings? Or I guess, do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
Or just an open-ended, is there
And just
anything
keep
else
it-
you
yeah,
need to
keep
say
it
about
general.
performance?
Yeah, okay,
I think what you have is good.
Yeah, just the one question.
okay.
This is attendance.
I'll reword it. I'm not good with words like on the spot, but I'm good when I have time to like think about
Just
them.
get the pronouns right.
Yeah, there. Okay. Okay, so I think getting those out. Because they don't need your assessment in order to do this, so I would say this goes out 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
To give people a chance to, because I'll mention this at the January meeting so people know to look out for it. Okay. And I think that's it. I feel like I don't want to overcomplicate it a lot because,
Read it again. The committees, I'm sorry.
so what she said was, any key contributions made during the past year, example, participation in key committees, providing valuable insight and expertise on critical issues, representing the organization on a public forum platform.
Okay, I'd like to, because of our past experience, and I'm not taking shots at Tim, I'm really not.
Mhm.
I like the idea of transparency.
Mhm.
And the fact that we get information that's critical to our deliberations on a timely basis.
Okay.
Those two concepts are important because unfortunately they were sorely missing. There was a lot of, again, I don't want to dump on Tim, I really don't.
Right.
But it was hardly transparent. And it was almost like, I'm got a secret, you got to guess what it is. And that's not the way we want you to operate. So I don't know how you want to incorporate that. That's a more.
In the question to the chairs,
Yeah.
so I could just word it as, like, did he provide leadership and transparency in his participation of the committee?
Yeah, because that's important also, because a lot of times, I mean, the cafe is a point of, is an example. The staff will tell you that they weren't properly polled. They didn't know what was going on. A lot of them didn't want it. There was no transparency. And pretty much it was being run, as,
Same thing with the
I don't mean it's true.
anniversary celebration. The fact that 3 different groups of people were on totally different pages was wild. So, yeah, I agree. But, so yeah, so I'll word that.
Yeah.
And get that out to them 2 weeks before the evaluation. What date would we want to do the evaluation then? If the next meeting date seems to be coming up a little too fast, too furious. If we keep what Thursdays, what's the, hello? The February, oh no, is our, what day of the week is this? My phone calendar is weird. Okay. Is the next board meeting in February the 13th or the 20th?
So it's currently on our calendar as the 27th. That felt a little late.
February 27th?
Yeah, I
For the
believe,
board
is it the third Thursday?
Yeah, so that'd be the
It should be the
20th.
20th.
I think, wait a minute, I think they changed that because of the school vacation week.
It is, the 20th is the week
Oh,
of President's
That's right,
Day.
you're right.
Okay,
So
that,
it's the
that,
Yeah, we
27th.
changed that.
I mean, I'm not going anywhere for the break, so would we be okay doing our meeting the 20th, even though that's school break? I'm the only one. Do you have
It's
kids?
going to be virtual.
You'll be virtual?
And I may be in bed. We have surgery on the 14th.
Are you?
I assume I'll be here, yeah. I mean, I'm
Uh,
having my brain removed.
well.
that's what I always ask.
Set me up with your surgeon.
Anytime my husband asks me what I need, I say a Laban.
No, I'm having reverse shoulder replacement, which I don't think,
Oh, no.
or I think I'll be in a sling and it's gonna be fine. The
Do
question.
you want me to pick you up so you're not driving? Because you shouldn't be
That's
driving.
the thing,
I can pick you up.
Well, or Al could take me, assuming.
Yeah.
If I need a write-up.
Let me know, because as long as us 3 can and you can come virtually, then I think we can.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I should be
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, I'm not going anywhere, so I'll be here.
I'm not even-
Come and visit me while I'm.
I will. I'll bring the kids if you like them. It's not on by myself. Okay, so if we shoot for the 20th, does that work for you, Pete?
Yep.
Okay, give you plenty of time to write that up. Please don't make it 10 pages.
I have a problem with writing an awful lot, so I'll try to limit it.
Okay,
you know?
10 seems a lot. I think my eyes are gonna glaze.
I'll try to be
over.
concise.
I love the game.
Okay, cool.
You have the time sheet.
So I think we have that cleaned up and this is an ever evolving process. So luckily, if we learn from this, there's something that was missing or something that was like redundant or excessive, we'll clean it up for the,
Do we have a self-assessment of the board? And should we? Okay, I was.
that sounds like a policy a governance committee thing. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't think we do.
You do not, to my knowledge.
I've not heard of it.
The library
This is
will be
new. The
closing
board's
in
online.
15 minutes. If you have materials you'd like to take out,
Really? So each
please
person
bring them to the
self-assesses
checkout
themselves.
desk immediately.
It's not the worst idea, but is
Or
that
committees.
something?
I mean, it's something to think about. I don't think it's crucial, just,
And I think because you all are an elected board, the assessment is the public, I think. So it doesn't hurt,
Oh,
like, for you to all to
right.
assess yourself,
That's true.
but that's your accountability.
Do you ever get comment cards about you?
Not yet.
Getting it
No.
rude? I was gonna
there
say,
haven't been in one comment card.
No, not that I can think of. I've run into people.
I'll throw some.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, make sure you include them.
The
'cause-
general reaction is that people seem to like me, but I guess they wouldn't tell me to my
What's
face if
that
they
like?
didn't.
So if you don't have any complaint cards, that's, that's your good sign.
Put that in your narrative.
Yeah. Be like 0 complaint cards.
It has been 365 days since my last complaint.
Yes, there you go.
No,
Are you enjoying it?
I'm genuinely very happy. I'm happy to be back in upstate New York. This library has a lot going for it. And like, as far as a little bit of a rough entry, like I think my first couple of months on the job were a little rougher than I would have liked, but you know, we're transitioning from a place where like the sins of previous people who worked here are like, those are in the rearview mirror. Now I can worry about my own sins,
Yeah.
you know, which is great.
I mean, it only set you up for success because you had
Right.
to probably do very bad to be like, oh no, we messed up.
You're happy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They
that's
have
really
folks that
good.
get along with you and.
Staff's really good. I love the community. Everyone I've spoken to, like I try to walk the
It's a
floor
nice
at least twice a
community.
day. Everyone's so kind. Like it's been great.
Whenever I run into people that I don't even know, I always ask them, do you use the library? What do you think of the library? I've never had a negative comment.
No, that's great.
People love this library. They do.
Yeah, I think I definitely feel like the,
Particularly the children's.
yeah, well, I feel like the winds are changing because there was sort of like this cloud for a while where it felt like there was bad morale here and people were
And the
unhappy.
cafe was a big.
Because I know, but even prior to that, like most people actually opted out of exit interviews. So it was hard to get their feedback
We
unless
also
it was
had a
like
very
really,
different board. There was a lot of contention.
there was that, but yeah, I think even too, like just the culture in the library was really harsh and there was a lot of like kind of difficult folks that were
Yeah.
kind of like running the show and it made people like very, like fearful. That was my, and it was kind of all over. I can't pinpoint like one particular thing. It just seemed like prevalent. It was just the culture of the
Well, it
library.
was scary that Bethlehem didn't improve their library budget.
Yeah,
It didn't get approved.
it got voted down.
That's scary.
I saw a lot of chatter. Well, it was a huge ask. So I was like
It's
looking
a
at,
huge library and it's a big,
is.
you know.
or I don't know if they like sold what all that was for well, because I'm still in some old Bethlehem groups from when I lived there. And people were like, I love my library and I want to give them money, but this amount of money
It's
is
too much.
so big. So like, I don't know if they could have like
What was the time they used to not?
chunked down the pieces, but it was significantly more than ours. And they were comparing it to that. So a lot of the comparisons were like, well, how come Gelderland did it with only 9? Like, why do you guys need like whatever it was 47?
Yeah.
So that
You can
was,
just tell by the events here how different the culture is, like the trick or treat, trunk, like all the events you have, so many people are coming and there's such a positive,
Yeah.
I was here and there was so many people here. It was great.
the one good thing is I think whatever the infighting stuff was didn't seem to affect
Yeah.
like the patrons, which was great, but it did kind of like, there were some events that should have happened that just fell apart because nobody can get on the same page. And there was always this like, I don't know, everyone felt everyone was stepping on each other's toes and it wasn't the case. It was just like it was just not ever aligned properly, so.
A lot has to do with leadership,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, it's totally, it really does. The leader of any organization sets the tone. Some people like to run an institution or a corporation or whatever by getting different opinions and pitting people against each other.
Or trying to make everyone happy, which is really hard to
That's a
do.
bad thing.
Sometimes you just have to
And
make an
people see
executive
right through
decision,
that.
be like,
But some people run it as if it is a fiefdom and they pit people's opinions against each other. So George Bernard Shaw said, if you keep the fighting among classes down here, the people at the top never get touched.
Yeah.
And he's right. but that's not the way to run a good organization.
No.
No. And I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think, staff turnover, obviously you have brain drain, you lose cultural memory, but you can change a culture a little more easily. And I think in the past 3 years.
That's the easiest way to do it for sure.
We've had at least a 40% turnover in our staff and we're still turning over new people. And that's an opportunity. Like it's an opportunity to get everyone on the same page, get everyone coalescing around the same mission.
And hopefully that number goes down with the culture change.
Once it
right?
stabilizes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you want to get to a stable place.
Yeah.
And then grow from there. Yeah, and that's been like a really rewarding part is working with the staff who they want to feel supported, they want to feel heard, but they're looking for a message. They're looking for like a shared, what are we working towards? Like there's excitement about the long range plan. There's excitement about what is our purpose? What are we trying to do in the community?
Yeah.
So we're at a really pivotal point in kind of,
And it shows because if they're happy and feel appreciated and feel that they're part of a team, it gets translated into how they greet and deal with the patrons.
I got startled when I came in because the lady at the desk was like, hi, hello. And I was like, oh my
She was great. She was, yeah.
But it
So friendly.
scared me because I don't think anyone's done that. And,
Well, then I always, well, some people know I'm on the board, so they do.
oh, okay.
A lot don't, and they're always extremely helpful.
And I get it. Sometimes they're busy and their heads down, but it did startle me because I was like, I think that's the first time someone so cheerily said hello when I walked in here that I got scared. I was like, oh, hello.
The tone is set at the top.
But it made me happy because I was like, oh, I'm stoked to be here. But it was a noticeable change. So I think even the little things like that, even if it was, she's always done that and I've just never seen her at the front desk, but I was like, oh, I love that.
Those little changes in thinking make a big impact on an organization.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we doing this thing now? Or we did?
oh no,
Oh, this is
we've already
done.
approved that.
This is all done. This was, he was just giving us an updated, like with his little
Michael's,
notes on here.
your comments were incorporated in here, right?
I believe I added
Yeah.
your comments to
Oh, you
it.
did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I move we adjourn.
Yeah. Is there a second?
I second.
Perfect. All right, and with that, we are done at, what is it? My
7:50.
glasses aren't strong enough. 7:52.
50-minute meeting.
Hey.